Imagine a hot summer day, the kind where the sun feels like a warm blanket. It was the perfect day for an Elvis concert. And not just any concert, but a huge outdoor show with thousands and thousands of people. Among them was a very special girl named Ellie. Ellie was 9 years old and had bright, sparkling eyes that held so much excitement. She used a wheelchair because of something called spina bifida, which made it harder for her to move her legs. But that didn't stop her from loving music and adventure. Today was a very big adventure. Ellie carefully chose her outfit for the big day. She wore her favorite denim jacket, which had little embroidered flowers on the pockets. It was a little bit big on her, but she liked the way it felt. Underneath, she had a bright yellow t-shirt with a picture of a smiling sun. To protect her face from the sun, she wore a crisp, white sun hat. Her mom had carefully placed pink, sparkly clips in her brown hair, making her feel extra fancy. She felt like a princess ready to meet her king. As they made their way to the concert grounds, Ellie could barely contain her excitement. She kept asking her mom, "Is it almost time? Will we get a good spot?" Her mom, smiling, assured her that everything would be perfect. Ellie gripped her Elvis teddy bear tightly. Ellie dreamed of seeing Elvis up close. She knew all his songs by heart. She would spend hours listening to his records, singing along and pretending to dance. She imagined him in his sparkly jumpsuit, his hair perfectly styled, and his voice filling the air. It was going to be magical. She wanted to see him smile, and maybe even wave at her. This day was a dream come true, almost too good to be real. She felt a flutter in her tummy, a mix of nerves and happiness. As they got closer to the concert, the music got louder, and the crowd got bigger. Ellie's eyes widened as she took it all in. She had never seen so many people in one place. The air buzzed with anticipation. Everyone was laughing and talking, eager for the show to begin. Ellie knew this was going to be a day she would never forget. She couldn't wait to see Elvis, the king of rock and roll, in person. Her heart beat faster with every step closer to the stage. This was it. The closer they got to the stage, the bigger the crowd became. It was like a sea of people, all packed together like colorful sardines. Ellie's mom carefully maneuvered her wheelchair through the throngs, trying to find a good spot. The energy was electric, with everyone buzzing with anticipation. You could feel the excitement in the air, thick like cotton candy. The music from the opening act was loud and exciting, but Ellie was waiting for one person and one person only, Elvis. She clutched her teddy bear tighter, her heart pounding in her chest. She wanted to see him so badly, to witness his magic firsthand. Finally, they found a spot near the back, but it wasn't ideal. Because of the crowd, Ellie couldn't see the stage very well. All she could see were the backs of people's heads. Tall people. Very, very tall people. She strained her neck trying to peek through the gaps, but it was no use. The stage was just too far away and the crowd too thick. A wave of disappointment washed over her. This wasn't how she had imagined it. She had dreamed of being close to the stage, feeling the music, and seeing Elvis's every move. Now, she was stuck in the back, barely able to see anything. She looked up at her mom, her eyes filled with sadness. Her mom squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, sweetie," she said. "We'll figure something out." The opening act finished, and the crowd roared with applause. The lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the audience. Ellie held her breath. This was it. Elvis was about to come on stage. The first chords of Hound Dog blasted through the speakers. The crowd went wild, screaming and cheering. But Ellie couldn't see a thing. She leaned forward as much as she could, but all she could see were the swaying bodies in front of her. She felt a tear roll down her cheek. She was missing it. She was missing the most important moment of her life. All she could hear was the music and the cheering, but she couldn't see Elvis. The joy she had felt earlier began to fade, replaced by a heavy feeling of disappointment. It was so close yet so far. She was at the Elvis concert, but she wasn't really at the Elvis concert. She was just on the edge, looking in. She closed her eyes, trying to imagine what it must be like to be up front, to see Elvis in all his glory. It felt so unfair. Seeing the disappointment on Ellie's face, her mom knew she had to do something. She couldn't let Ellie miss out on her dream. She tried her best to lift Ellie's arms up high, hoping that she could get a glimpse of the stage over the heads of the crowd. "Can you see anything now, sweetie?" she asked, straining her own neck. Ellie reached up, her little hands stretching towards the stage, but it was no use. All she could see were blurry shapes and the occasional glint of light. "No, Mommy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I still can't see." Her mom tried again, lifting her higher and higher, but the crowd was just too dense. People were packed together so tightly that it was impossible to see through them. It was like trying to see through a solid wall. Ellie's frustration grew. She wanted to scream, to cry, to do anything to make the people in front of her move. But she knew it wouldn't do any good. They were all just as excited to see Elvis as she was. She slumped back in her wheelchair, her shoulders drooping. The music was still playing, the crowd was still cheering, but she felt like she was in a bubble, separated from all the excitement. It was like watching a party through a window, unable to join in the fun. Tears welled up in her eyes. It wasn't fair. She had waited so long for this day, and now she was missing it. She wanted to see Elvis, to hear his voice, to feel the magic of his performance. But all she could see were the backs of people's heads. She wiped her tears away with the back of her hand, trying to be brave. She didn't want to ruin the day for her mom. But it was hard to hide her disappointment. She felt like a balloon that had lost all its air, deflated and sad. Her mom wrapped her arm around her, pulling her close. "I know, sweetie," she said softly. "I know it's not fair. But we're not going to give up. We'll find a way for you to see Elvis." Ellie leaned against her mom, feeling a little bit better. She knew her mom would do everything she could to help her. But deep down, she couldn't help but feel like her dream was slipping away. The crowd was too big, the stage was too far, and she was too small. It felt like an impossible situation. All she could do was hope for a miracle. She closed her eyes, wishing with all her might that something, anything, would happen to make her dream come true. Elvis was in the middle of singing, "Love Me Tender," his voice smooth as velvet, when he noticed something near the side barrier. He usually focused on the front rows, where fans screamed and reached out to touch him. But tonight something different caught his eye. He saw a small figure in a wheelchair, surrounded by a sea of people. He couldn't quite make out the details, but he sensed a struggle. People were shifting and pointing, and he saw a woman trying to lift the small figure higher. It was hard to tell what was happening, but he felt a tug in his heart. Elvis had always been a sensitive soul. He remembered his own humble beginnings, growing up poor in Tupelo, Mississippi. He knew what it felt like to be overlooked, to be invisible. And he couldn't bear the thought of anyone feeling that way, especially not at his concert. He kept singing, but his eyes kept drifting back to the commotion near the barrier. He could see the woman's face now, etched with concern. And he could see the little figure in the wheelchair more clearly, a young girl with a white sun hat and bright, hopeful eyes. He made a decision. He couldn't ignore what was happening. He had to do something. As the band played on, Elvis slowly walked towards the edge of the stage, closer to the side barrier. He kept singing, his voice still strong and steady, but his attention was now focused on the little girl in the wheelchair. He leaned forward, peering over the edge of the stage. He could see the girl's face clearly now. She looked sad, her eyes filled with disappointment. He could see that she couldn't see the stage. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't let her miss out on the show. He couldn't let her feel invisible. He had to bring her closer. He had to bring her up on stage. With a subtle nod, he caught the eye of one of his security guards. He gestured towards the little girl in the wheelchair, motioning for the guard to bring her forward. The security guard hesitated for a moment, surprised by the request. But he knew better than to question Elvis. He nodded and started to make his way through the crowd towards Ellie and her mom. Elvis continued to sing, his voice filled with emotion. He knew that the crowd was probably wondering what he was doing. But he didn't care. He was focused on the little girl in the wheelchair, on making her dream come true. He knew this was the right thing to do. He had to help her. Ellie watched in disbelief as the security guard approached. She couldn't believe what was happening. Was Elvis really sending someone to get her? Her heart started to beat even faster, if that was even possible. The security guard, a big man with a kind face, knelt down beside her and her mom. "Elvis wants to bring you up on stage," he said, his voice gentle. Ellie gasped. "Me?" she squeaked, pointing to herself. The security guard smiled. "Yes, you. He saw you couldn't see, and he wants you to have a better view." Tears of joy streamed down Ellie's face. This was a dream come true. She had only wished for a glimpse of Elvis, but now she was going to meet him, up on stage. Her mom was just as surprised and excited. She squeezed Ellie's hand tightly. "This is amazing, sweetie," she said, her voice filled with emotion. The security guard carefully lifted Ellie out of her wheelchair. She felt like she was floating, weightless and free. He carried her gently through the crowd, making a path for them to get to the stage. As they got closer, Ellie could see Elvis more clearly. He was even more handsome in person than she had imagined. His hair was perfectly styled, his eyes sparkled, and his smile was warm and inviting. The crowd parted, making way for them to reach the stage. People were cheering and clapping, their faces filled with joy. They knew that something special was happening. The security guard carefully lifted Ellie up onto the stage. She felt a little nervous, being so close to so many people. But she also felt incredibly happy and excited. Elvis reached out his hand to help her. "Welcome to the stage," he said, his voice kind and gentle. Ellie took his hand, her fingers trembling. His hand was warm and strong, and she felt a jolt of electricity run through her body. She couldn't believe she was actually holding Elvis's hand. He led her to a chair near the front of the stage, where she could see everything perfectly. The crowd roared with applause, their cheers deafening. Ellie looked out at the sea of faces, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She couldn't believe that this was happening to her. She was on stage with Elvis, the king of rock and roll. It was the most magical moment of her life. She smiled. This was even better than her dream. The music had stopped now. A hush fell over the crowd as all eyes turned to Ellie and Elvis on stage. The band members looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Elvis gave them a reassuring nod, letting them know that everything was okay. He knelt down beside Ellie, his knee almost touching the floor. He looked at her with kind eyes. "Hi there," he said, his voice soft and gentle. "What's your name?" Ellie was so nervous that she could barely speak. "Ellie," she stammered, her voice trembling. "It's nice to meet you, Ellie," Elvis said, smiling warmly. "I'm Elvis." Ellie's eyes widened. "I know!" she exclaimed, then blushed, realizing how silly that sounded. Elvis chuckled. "I saw you down there," he said, "and I could tell you weren't having much fun. I wanted to make sure you had a good view." Ellie's heart swelled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "This is the best day ever." Elvis reached into his pocket and pulled out a silk scarf. It was white, with sparkly gold threads woven through it. He often wore it during his performances, and it was one of his signature items. "Here," he said, handing the scarf to Ellie. "I want you to have this." Ellie gasped. "Really?" she asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Really," Elvis said, smiling. "It's for you." Ellie carefully took the scarf from his hand. It felt soft and smooth against her skin. She couldn't believe that Elvis was giving her one of his scarves. It was the most amazing gift she had ever received. She clutched the scarf tightly to her chest, her eyes shining with happiness. She didn't know what to say. She was so overwhelmed with gratitude that words failed her. Elvis smiled at her, his eyes filled with kindness. He could see how much this meant to her, and it warmed his heart. He loved making people happy, and he knew that he had made Ellie's day. He looked out at the crowd, and he could see that they were all smiling and cheering. They were all sharing in Ellie's joy. It was a beautiful moment, a moment of connection and kindness that transcended the music and the fame. It was a moment that would be remembered for years to come. "Is there anything else I can do for you, Ellie?" Elvis asked, his voice gentle. Ellie thought for a moment. There was one more thing she wanted to say, one more thing she needed to express. She looked up at Elvis, her eyes filled with love and admiration. "I love you," she said, her voice clear and strong. Elvis's face lit up with a radiant smile. He had heard those words many times before, but coming from Ellie, they felt different, more genuine. "I love you too, Ellie," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I really do." Elvis took Ellie's small hand in his touch gentle and reassuring. He looked at the band, gave them a quick signal, and then turned back to Ellie, his eyes sparkling. "What's your favorite song, Ellie?" he asked, his voice warm and inviting. Ellie blushed again, feeling a surge of excitement. I like them all," she said, giggling nervously. Elvis smiled. "Well, if you had to pick just one," he prompted, "which one would it be?" Ellie thought for a moment, tapping her chin with her finger. It was a difficult decision. She loved all of Elvis's songs. But finally, she made up her mind. "Can't help falling in love," she said, her voice clear and confident. Elvis's smile widened. "That's a good one," he said. "A very good one." He looked at the band again, nodded his head, and they began to play the familiar melody. The soft, sweet notes filled the air, creating a magical atmosphere. Elvis turned back to Ellie, his eyes locked on hers. He began to sing, his voice smooth and powerful, but also filled with tenderness. "Wise men say, only fools rush in." He sang directly to Ellie, his voice pouring out his heart. He held her hand tightly, his touch sending shivers down her spine. Ellie listened in awe, her eyes glued to Elvis's face. She couldn't believe that he was singing just for her. It was the most incredible moment of her life. She felt like she was floating on a cloud, transported to a world of music and magic. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, their voices filled with emotion. They could feel the connection between Elvis and Ellie, and it touched their hearts. Many people were crying, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Elvis continued to sing, his voice soaring above the music. He poured all his love and passion into the song, making it a truly unforgettable performance. "But I can't help falling in love with you." As he sang the final note, Elvis squeezed Ellie's hand and smiled at her. His eyes were filled with warmth and sincerity. Ellie smiled back at him, her heart overflowing with happiness. She had never felt so special, so loved, so connected to another person. It was a moment she would cherish forever. The crowd went wild, their cheers and applause deafening. They were all on their feet, clapping and stomping, showing their appreciation for Elvis's kindness and for the beautiful moment he had created. Elvis took a bow, then turned back to Ellie. "Thank you, Ellie," he said, his voice gentle. "You made my night." He gave her a wink, then turned to the crowd, signaling to the band to start playing another song. The music filled the air again, and the concert continued, but for Ellie, the night had already reached its peak. She knew that nothing could ever top this moment. She had met her idol, he had sung to her, and he had given her a gift that she would treasure forever. She was the luckiest girl in the world. She looked at the scarf in her lap, its gold threads sparkling in the light. It was a reminder of this magical night, a symbol of Elvis's kindness and generosity. She knew that she would never forget this day, the day that Elvis made her dream come true. When the next song started, Elvis didn't just launch into it like normal. He kept holding Ellie's hand. He looked at her, and you could see the kindness shining in his eyes. He leaned in close, as if he was going to share a secret. "This one's for you too, Ellie," he said, his voice a low rumble that only she could hear clearly. Then, he started to sing. It wasn't one of his usual rock and roll songs. It was a slow, gentle ballad, one about dreams and hope. The band played softly, letting Elvis's voice fill the stadium. His voice. Oh, his voice. It was like melted chocolate, so smooth and rich. But there was something else in it, too. You could hear the love, the compassion, the real feeling behind the words. It wasn't just singing, it was like he was talking to your soul. He sang about believing in yourself, even when things are hard. He sang about chasing your dreams, no matter how big or how far away they seem. And he sang about kindness, about how a little bit of love can change the whole world. As he sang, he looked right at Ellie. He didn't look away, not even for a second. It was like she was the only person in the whole stadium. He held her hand tight, and she could feel the warmth spreading through her. Ellie listened, her heart full. She knew that Elvis was singing to her, and she knew that he meant every word. She felt braver, stronger, and more hopeful than she had ever felt before. His voice wrapped around her like a warm blanket, chasing away all her fears and doubts. The crowd was completely silent, listening to every note. You could have heard a pin drop. They were all caught up in the magic of the moment, feeling the power of Elvis's voice and the connection between him and Ellie. When the song ended, there wasn't just applause. There was a roar. People were cheering, stomping their feet, and whistling. They were showing their love for Elvis, but they were also showing their support for Ellie, for her courage and her spirit. Elvis smiled, a big, genuine smile that lit up his whole face. He squeezed Ellie's hand again, then stood up. "Thank you," he said to the crowd, his voice humble and sincere. "You're the best audience in the world." Then, he looked down at Ellie, his eyes full of love. "And thank you, Ellie," he said. "You inspired me tonight." He winked at her, then turned to the band, ready to launch into another song. The concert went on, but for Ellie, everything had changed. She wasn't just a girl in a wheelchair anymore. She was special. She was loved. And she had a memory that would last a lifetime. She knew she would never forget the night Elvis sang to her, the night he made her feel like she could do anything. The cheers were deafening. It wasn't just the normal concert excitement, it was something more. It was a wave of love and support washing over Ellie. People were crying, waving, and shouting her name. They had seen what Elvis had done, and it had touched their hearts. Before, Ellie had felt like she was on the outside, looking in. Now, she felt like she was the center of the universe. All those eyes, all those smiles, all that love, it was all directed at her. It was like the whole crowd was giving her a giant hug. She saw people holding up signs that said, "We love Ellie!" and "Ellie is our queen!" It made her giggle and blush at the same time. She had never felt so special in her life. Even the people who had been blocking her view earlier were now smiling and waving at her. They seemed genuinely happy for her. It was like Elvis's kindness had spread through the crowd, turning everyone into friends. Ellie looked at her mom, who was standing near the side of the stage, tears streaming down her face. Her mom gave her a thumbs up and a huge, proud smile. Ellie knew that her mom was just as happy as she was. The feeling was incredible. It was like all the joy and excitement of the concert had been amplified, turned up to 11. It was more than just happiness. It was pure, unadulterated bliss. She felt like she could fly. Like she could do anything. Like all her dreams were possible. The crowd's reaction made everything even more amazing. It wasn't just about being on stage with Elvis. It was about sharing that moment with thousands of people who cared. It was about feeling accepted, loved, and celebrated. She realized that she wasn't just special because Elvis had brought her on stage. She was special because she was Ellie. She was special because of her courage, her spirit, and her love for music. And the crowd recognized that. They saw her for who she was, and they loved her for it. This was more than just a concert. It was a celebration of kindness, compassion, and the power of music to connect people. It was a moment that Ellie would never forget, a moment that would shape her life forever. She knew that from this day forward, she would always remember that she was loved, that she was special, and that she could do anything she set her mind to. The cheers, the tears, the overwhelming support, it all magnified her joy and made her feel like the luckiest girl in the world. As the next song began, a lively tune that made everyone want to dance, Elvis knew it was time to get Ellie back to her mom. He didn't want her to miss the rest of the concert, and he knew her mom must be anxious to have her back. He carefully picked up Ellie's wheelchair and placed it near her. Then, with a gentle hand, he helped her transfer from the chair on the stage back into her own wheelchair. He made sure she was comfortable and secure. "All right, Ellie," he said, smiling. "Time to get you back to your mom." He knelt down again, making sure he was at her level. "Thank you for making my night so special," he said. "You're a very special girl, and I'll never forget you." Ellie smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "Thank you, Elvis," she said. "I'll never forget you either." Elvis stood up and carefully positioned himself behind Ellie's wheelchair. He gently took hold of the handles and began to wheel her towards the side of the stage. The crowd cheered even louder as they saw Elvis pushing Ellie's wheelchair. They were touched by his kindness and his genuine care for her. As they approached the edge of the stage, Ellie could see her mom standing there, waiting anxiously. Her mom's face was filled with tears of joy and gratitude. Elvis carefully wheeled Ellie down the ramp, making sure the ride was smooth and comfortable. He was so gentle and considerate, treating her with the utmost respect. Finally, they reached her mom. Elvis stopped the wheelchair and stepped aside, allowing Ellie and her mom to reunite. The moment they saw each other, Ellie and her mom burst into tears. They hugged each other tightly, their embrace filled with love, gratitude, and relief. "Oh, Ellie, sweetie!" her mom exclaimed, her voice choked with emotion. "That was amazing! I'm so happy for you!" Ellie hugged her mom even tighter, burying her face in her shoulder. "I love you, Mommy!" she said, her voice muffled. "This was the best day ever!" Her mom pulled back and looked at Ellie, her eyes filled with love and pride. "I love you too, sweetie," she said. "You're so brave and so special." Elvis stood back, watching the reunion with a warm smile on his face. He was happy to see Ellie and her mom together, their love shining brightly. He knew that he had made a difference in their lives, and that made him feel good. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It was a picture of him, signing autographs for fans. He knelt down beside Ellie and handed her the photograph. "Here," he said. "I want you to have this. It's to remember this day." Ellie took the photograph, her eyes wide with excitement. "Thank you, Elvis," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. Elvis smiled, then stood up and turned to walk back towards the stage. The crowd cheered even louder as he made his way back, showing their appreciation for his kindness and generosity. As Elvis walked away, Ellie looked at the photograph in her hand. It was signed, "To Ellie, with love, Elvis Presley." She clutched the photograph tightly to her chest, along with the silk scarf. She knew that she would treasure these gifts forever, reminders of the day that Elvis made her dream come true. She looked up at her mom, her eyes shining with happiness. "Mommy," she said, "I'm never going to forget this day. Ever." Her mom smiled and hugged her tightly. "Neither am I, sweetie," she said. "Neither am I." Little did Ellie and her mom know, that beautiful moment was being filmed. News cameras were there to capture the energy of the Elvis concert, and they just happened to catch Elvis's amazing act of kindness. The next day, it was everywhere. On the news, in the newspapers, even on the radio. Everyone was talking about what Elvis had done for Ellie. The story spread like wildfire, touching hearts all over the country. Suddenly, Ellie was famous. People recognized her on the street. She got letters and cards from strangers, all sending her love and support. It was a whirlwind of attention, but it was mostly positive. For Elvis, it just confirmed what people already knew, that he was more than just a singer. He was a kind and generous person with a big heart. The story cemented his legacy as not just the king of rock and roll, but the king of kindness as well. It showed a side of him that many people didn't get to see, a side that was genuine, compassionate, and caring. It made him even more beloved by his fans and earned him the respect of people who might not have been fans before. The event became iconic. It was talked about for years, a shining example of how a simple act of compassion can make a world of difference. It showed how celebrities can use their platform to do good and to make a positive impact on the lives of others. For Ellie, the impact was even more profound. The event boosted her confidence and self-esteem. She went from feeling invisible to feeling like she could do anything. She became an advocate for people with disabilities, sharing her story and inspiring others to believe in themselves. The memory of that day stayed with her forever. Whenever she faced challenges, she would remember Elvis's kindness and his words of encouragement. It gave her the strength to keep going, to never give up on her dreams. And of course, she always cherished the scarf and the photograph. They were reminders of a magical moment, a moment that changed her life forever. They were symbols of the love and kindness that she had experienced that day, a love and kindness that she carried with her always. The story of Elvis and Ellie became a timeless tale, a reminder that even small acts of compassion can have a huge impact. It's a story that continues to inspire people to be kinder, more generous, and more loving to one another. It's a story that shows us that even in a world filled with darkness, there is always light, and that sometimes, the greatest acts of kindness come from the most unexpected places. And for Ellie, it was a day that proved that dreams really can come true. The Elvis concert wasn't just a single, shining day for Ellie. It was a turning point that rippled through her entire life. It colored her childhood with a sense of possibility, and gave her a strength she didn't know she possessed. Before the concert, Ellie sometimes felt different, like she was on the sidelines. Kids would stare, and sometimes they would whisper. But after the concert, things changed. People saw her differently. They saw her as the girl Elvis loved, the girl who had touched the heart of the king. That gave her confidence. She started to participate more in school, raising her hand in class and joining clubs. She even tried out for the school play. She might not have been able to dance or move around on stage easily, but she had a powerful voice and a story to tell. The concert also shaped her perspective on the world. She learned that even when things seem unfair, there is always hope for kindness and compassion. She learned that even small acts of generosity can have a huge impact on someone's life. She became more empathetic, more aware of the struggles of others. She wanted to make a difference in the world, to spread the same kindness that Elvis had shown her. That's why she became an advocate for people with disabilities. She wanted to make sure that everyone had a voice, that everyone felt seen and heard. And of course, her relationship with Elvis's music deepened. Before, she just loved his songs because they were catchy and fun. But after the concert, his music became something more. It became a source of comfort, inspiration, and strength. Whenever she felt down or discouraged, she would listen to Elvis's music, and it would remind her of that magical day. It would remind her that she was loved, that she was special, and that she could do anything she set her mind to. "Can't Help Falling in Love" became her anthem. It was a reminder of the power of love to overcome obstacles and to connect people from all walks of life. It was a reminder of the bond she had shared with Elvis, a bond that transcended fame and fortune. She collected everything Elvis-related: records, posters, books, even a replica of his famous jumpsuit. Her room became a shrine to the king, a constant reminder of the day that changed her life. As she grew older, she continued to share her story, inspiring countless people with her resilience and her unwavering belief in the power of kindness. She became a sought-after speaker, traveling the country to share her message of hope and inspiration. And every time she told her story, she always made sure to emphasize the importance of Elvis's act of kindness. She wanted people to know that even a small gesture can have a lasting impact, that even a few moments of compassion can change someone's life forever. The Elvis concert wasn't just a memory, it was the foundation upon which she built her life. It was the source of her strength, her inspiration, and her unwavering belief in the power of kindness. It was a gift that kept on giving, shaping her childhood, her perspective, and her relationship with Elvis's music in profound and meaningful ways. To truly understand why Elvis did what he did for Ellie, you have to understand Elvis himself. He wasn't just a performer, he was a person with a big heart, shaped by his upbringing and his values. Elvis grew up poor in Tupelo, Mississippi. He knew what it was like to struggle, to go without. He saw his parents work hard to make ends meet, and he learned the importance of helping others. His mother, Gladys, was a deeply religious woman who instilled in him a strong sense of faith and compassion. She taught him to treat everyone with respect, regardless of their background or circumstances. She always said, "Treat others as you want to be treated." Elvis took that lesson to heart. Even as he became famous and wealthy, he never forgot his roots. He remained humble and grounded, always willing to lend a helping hand. He was known for his generosity. He often gave away cars, houses, and money to friends, family, and even complete strangers. He never forgot where he came from, and he always wanted to share his success with others. There are countless stories about Elvis's kindness. He would visit hospitals and nursing homes, spending time with patients and bringing them joy. He would stop his car to help people who were stranded on the side of the road. He would pay for groceries for families who couldn't afford them. One story tells of a time when Elvis was driving through Memphis and saw a woman struggling to carry groceries. He stopped his car, helped her carry the bags to her house, and then gave her a wad of cash to help pay for her bills. Another story tells of a time when Elvis visited a children's hospital. He spent hours talking to the kids, signing autographs, and taking pictures. He even sang a few songs for them, bringing smiles to their faces. He never sought publicity for his acts of kindness. He did them because he genuinely cared about people. He believed that it was his responsibility to use his fame and fortune to make the world a better place. That's why he stopped his concert for Ellie. He saw her struggling, and he knew that he could do something to help. He didn't hesitate. He didn't think about the consequences. He just acted, following his heart and his values. His upbringing and his values shaped him into the man he was, a kind, generous, and compassionate person who used his fame and fortune to make a positive impact on the world. And that's why the story of Elvis and Ellie continues to resonate with people today. It's a reminder that even in a world filled with darkness, there is always light, and that even the smallest act of kindness can make a world of difference. It was simply Elvis being Elvis. The days and weeks following the concert were a whirlwind of media attention. News reporters flocked to Memphis, eager to interview anyone who had been there that night. They wanted to know everything about what had happened, about Elvis's act of kindness, and about the little girl in the wheelchair. Interviews with people who attended the concert painted a picture of a magical night, a night where music and compassion came together to create something truly special. "It was just incredible," said one concertgoer. "I've been an Elvis fan for years, but I've never seen him do anything like that before. It just showed what a big heart he had. There wasn't a dry eye in the house," said another. "It was so moving to see him bring that little girl on stage. It just made you feel good to be alive. It was the best concert I've ever been to," said a third. "Not just because of the music, but because of the feeling of love and kindness that was in the air. It was something I'll never forget." News reports from the time highlighted Elvis's generosity and his genuine care for his fans. They praised him for using his platform to make a positive impact on the world. "Elvis Presley proves that he's more than just a singer," read one headline. "He's a humanitarian, a role model, and a true inspiration." Reflections on the event's significance in music history often point to it as a defining moment, a moment that transcended the music and became a symbol of hope and compassion. The story of Elvis and Ellie is a reminder that even in a world filled with negativity, there is always room for kindness, wrote one music historian. It's a story that will continue to inspire people for generations to come. The concert became a touchstone, a reference point for discussions about celebrity, responsibility, and the power of music to connect people. It was cited in countless articles, books, and documentaries about Elvis's life and legacy. Years later, people would still talk about the Elvis concert, remembering the magic of that night and the impact it had on their lives. It became more than just a concert. It became a legend, a symbol of hope, and a testament to the power of kindness. The story of Elvis and Ellie continues to be shared, passed down from generation to generation, reminding people that even the smallest act of compassion can make a world of difference. It's a story that shows us that even in the darkest of times, there is always light, and that sometimes, the greatest acts of kindness come from the most unexpected places. It was a moment that proved that music can heal, that love can conquer all, and that dreams really can come true. It was a moment etched forever in music history. The impact of Elvis's actions that night extended far beyond Ellie and her family. It resonated deeply within the broader culture, influencing perceptions of celebrities and their interactions with fans, particularly those with disabilities. Before the Elvis-Ellie story, the relationship between celebrities and fans was often seen as distant and transactional. Celebrities were figures on a pedestal, admired from afar but rarely interacting with ordinary people on a personal level. Elvis's act of kindness shattered that perception. It showed that celebrities could be more than just entertainers. They could be compassionate human beings who cared about their fans. It humanized Elvis in a way that few celebrities had been before. The story also had a significant impact on perceptions of people with disabilities. In a time when people with disabilities were often marginalized and overlooked, Elvis's actions sent a powerful message of inclusion and acceptance. It showed that people with disabilities deserved to be treated with respect and dignity, and that their dreams and aspirations were just as valid as anyone else's. The event helped to raise awareness about the challenges faced by people with disabilities and to promote a more inclusive and accepting society. It inspired other celebrities to use their platforms to support disability rights and to advocate for greater accessibility and inclusion. After the Elvis-Ellie story, it became more common to see celebrities interacting with fans with disabilities, inviting them backstage, and even bringing them on stage to share the spotlight. The event paved the way for a more inclusive and compassionate entertainment industry. It also influenced the way concerts and other public events were organized. Venues began to provide better accessibility for people with disabilities, including wheelchair ramps, accessible seating, and sign language interpreters. The story of Elvis and Ellie served as a catalyst for change, inspiring a more inclusive and accepting culture. It reminded people that everyone deserves to be treated with kindness and respect, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. The moment transcended entertainment and became a cultural touchstone, demonstrating the power of celebrity to promote social change and to inspire a more compassionate world. It showed that even the smallest act of kindness can have a ripple effect, creating a more inclusive and accepting society for all. Elvis and Ellie's story became a powerful symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, love and kindness can prevail. It became an enduring legacy that continues to inspire people to this day. Now, imagine Ellie as an adult. Years have passed, but the memory of that Elvis concert is still vivid in her mind. She's a successful woman, a strong advocate for disability rights, and a loving wife and mother. She often reflects on that day, on the kindness that Elvis showed her, and on the impact it had on her life. She keeps the silk scarf and the signed photograph in a special box, bringing them out every now and then to remind herself of that magical moment. "It's funny," she says, smiling softly. "I was just a little girl, wanting to see my idol. I never imagined that he would see me." She understands now that Elvis's act of kindness wasn't just about bringing her on stage. It was about seeing her, about recognizing her humanity, about making her feel valued and loved. "It taught me that even the smallest acts of compassion can have a huge impact," she says. "You never know what someone is going through, and a little bit of kindness can make all the difference." She's made it her mission to spread that message of kindness throughout her life. She volunteers at a local soup kitchen, she mentors young people with disabilities, and she always tries to be a source of support and encouragement for those around her. "Elvis showed me that it's not enough to just dream big," she says. "You have to act, to use your voice, to make a difference in the world." She often shares her story with others, hoping to inspire them to be kinder and more compassionate. She tells them about the little girl in the wheelchair, the king of rock and roll, and the power of music to connect people. It's not about being famous or wealthy, she says. It's about being human, about caring for others, and about making the world a better place, one small act of kindness at a time. And every time she tells her story, she always emphasizes the lasting impact of Elvis's kindness. She wants people to know that even though Elvis is gone, his legacy of love and compassion lives on, inspiring her and countless others to make a difference in the world. He may have been the king of rock and roll, she says, but to me, he was the king of kindness. And that's a legacy that will last forever. She believes that the world needs more kindness, more compassion, and more empathy. She believes that everyone has the power to make a difference, to spread a little bit of light in the darkness. It doesn't take much, she says. A smile, a kind word, a helping hand, these are all small acts that can have a big impact. And if we all do our part, we can create a world where everyone feels valued, loved, and accepted. She looks at the silk scarf in her hand, its gold threads sparkling in the light. It's a reminder of that magical day, a reminder of Elvis's kindness, and a reminder of the importance of small acts of compassion. And she knows that as long as she keeps sharing her story, Elvis's legacy will continue to shine brightly, inspiring generations to come. She smiles, knowing that his kindness has touched countless lives and continues to make the world a better place. And that, she thinks, is the greatest legacy of all.